Hello, good morning. We are going to have a really, really laid back time. And good morning is a little bit reductive, isn't it? Like y'all are coming in from all over the world. Of course, good afternoon. And I always say if it's the middle of the night, this is available recorded. Y'all do if it is like 11 or go later, earlier at some point, y'all don't need to be here. Of course, you're a joy. Of course, I'm delighted to have you. But sleep is more important than programming, right? Right? This is just fancy word puzzles. This will be here tomorrow. I'm always over the top delighted to be here with you all, but I'm going to be even more excited and probably even more annoying because today we're talking about my absolutely favorite topic in really programming. Hmm. You know what? Maybe this is my favorite topic overall. Just in the wide world, outside of computers, even, because we're going to be talking about accessibility. And while I'm talking about why I like accessibility, can I get some of you in the chat? What is accessibility? Yeah, this isn't going to be a ha ha ha, got you, no, you're wrong. Super chill. What do you think accessibility, especially as it relates to programming, might mean? Yeah, what do you think accessibility means? I'm really excited to talk about accessibility because this is one of the times where we get to talk about our ethical responsibilities as programmers. And of course, all of you are already programmers. All of you are already web developers. If you're just coming to us off the stream, that's super chill. What we're doing is we're doing a free web development boot camp based around the free code camp curriculum. We'll go ahead and throw up a little banner about where you can check that out. We've been going for about 3 weeks, so if you want to like catch up real fast, or if you just want to take a look at what the boot camp looks like, I think coming in halfway is going to stress you out, isn't it? What we did, yeah. Oh, Tech Junkie. So accessibility, you know what? Oh, and Nikki's making a point after my own heart. So Tech Junkie's saying, hey, when we talk about accessibility, are we talking about the practices of making our web experiences more accessible for people with different kinds of needs, maybe with people with disabilities? And Nikki's like, maybe it's not just disabilities. And Sadiq, um, accessibility is really the practice, and I'd say the ongoing practice, isn't it, of making sure that people who want to access your what you're building, and not just what you're building, other people in the web should be focused on accessibility. People should be able to access things regardless of whether or not they're using adaptive technologies. Rava saying developing programs which are accessible to everyone. Dare, a design process that caters for people with disabilities, really making sure that they're included. And I love this. I really want to come back again and again because I'm repetitive. Um, and the things that you do to make your websites and web applications more accessible and friendlier to people with using different kinds of assistive technology or who have different kinds of needs or different disabilities. Doing this is just going to make your website better anyway. Also, I'm a big fan of there being both carrots and sticks. And if it means anything, um, if you build inaccessible websites that people with adaptive technologies can't use or that are just unfriendly for different groups of people in general, what could happen? What's that going to cost you? What could that cost you if you're building websites and you're building websites that people can't use? What kind of faults? Well, like what kind of costs is that going to include? We're going to take a deep breath while I wait for your very, very clever answers. Deep breath, and come all the way down because we've done so much of this. Remember that I completely forgot that I was supposed to assign you all Flexbox as homework because I am officially the worst. I'm going to go ahead and have a Saturday study session where we'll go over that. And I think Ramon's coming too, so you'll get your requisite amount of pat in. And we talked a little bit about typography yesterday. And I think typography comes really, really neatly into accessibility. Dari's pointing out, you know what? If you don't make your website accessible, your users might not come back. Absolutely. If you're using your website for business, you could be losing money. If you're working on a website for something that's really important like healthcare or civic services, it could mean that people who really need that don't get access. It could hurt people. Yeah, it is the least important reason, but I will also be personally very, very disappointed. We're going to check out our preview. So cool. We're doing a quiz. And you say, well, Jess, we've already done forms. This feels kind of similar, doesn't it? This does feel kind of similar. The thing that we're going to do now is we're going to take the skills we learned in forms and we're going to expand on this a little bit, really focusing on, oh, what do we need to make this quiz or this form, because it's just a form, isn't it? Really meaningfully accessible. So there's a lot going on here. Yeah. Let's start coding. This is going to be super laid back. We are going to go fast at first, right? Whoop. So, first part of the accessibility quiz, and I love this. I love this because you are a seasoned, because you're an experienced HTML and CSS developer. They've gone ahead and done all the little easy bits for us. All the like, well, here's and it's only easy because you've done this again and again and again. But the building out our HTML and head and link to our CSS, that's already done for us, just to speed us up a little bit. Ooh. So we're going to provide a lang attribute in our HTML element. We've never done this. We have never done this. How do we find out how to do this if we've never done it? Yeah. Well, that's not a rhetorical question. Come on. Yeah. Let's look at the documentation together. Um, And I don't mean to assume that we all have the same favorite documentation site. Yeah. But what's our favorite documentation site for web stuff? Yeah, it's going to be MDN probably, right? So here it says, yeah, MDN docs. Right, right. We should see if we can get somebody from the MDN team to come and chat to us. Sorry, that's just a cruise control for disappointment. Me saying, oh, you know who we should get to come chat? So the lang attribute helps define the language of an element. Okay, cool. Why might it be especially useful for someone using assistive technology? Oh, you know what? I'm asking a bunch of questions. Answer any of them. What do we think an assistive technology means? I never explained that. I'll explain that in a second. So, what do we think an assistive technology might be? And why might it be important for somebody using assistive technology to need to know what language a website starts? Yeah, we'll put the language between the HTML tags. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got this one. That seems absolutely heckin' right. Ooh, language equals blank. We set the language to unknown. We don't know it. But here, I'm gonna say language equals. What are our options here? Do you just want to say EN for English? It's not probably not going to use British English, is it? So we've got the context. And one thing we really like with MDN is we've got the ability to see what that's going to look like. And here, we're not really going to see many differences. We're going to come all the way back to our lesson. Come on, we already saw that. We're going to put that in our HTML, we think, yeah? Our HTML lang attribute to our HTML element. And it hasn't told us what, here I've cheated. Oh, and Nikki makes a good point and saying, wow, 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 we're going to put this in English, but it could be GB or US. Yeah, I think I'm gently suspicious that maybe Free Code Camp uses American English. And based on my accent, you think, oh, Leanne's like, British English worked. Let's try British. And really, you know what? People are going to be rightly angry about me saying this, but it's not that big a difference, is there? Like S's instead of Z's and maybe a couple more U's. But hear what we're saying right at the top of our page. Yeah. And Link's made a good point. So, a good example of assistive technology might be a screen reader that a blind user or a visually impaired user is using. And what that is, are those are devices that literally out loud read a website to you. So knowing right at the beginning, hey, this website's in English. I'd be like, cool. That's the language I'm looking for. I don't need to wander on. Yeah. And some point for folks are pointing out that we could use US as well. It's going to work just fine. Yeah. I think here, oh, you know what? I wonder if it's going to let us use any language we want. And here, we're also going to add a character set. Yeah. And a character set, we've sort of previewed this a little bit. That's about the type of character encoding that we're using here. So we're going to go to our meta tag. Oh, give our page a meta tag. And we learned that we want to do this pretty close to the top of our page. Yeah. Oh, Leanne points out that if you don't specify, if you leave that open, it defaults to English. Huh. I have a lot of opinions about English as the sort of assumed de facto global language of the web, but y'all, we'll do a separate muttering rant about ethics and language. Meta. And here we're setting the care set. Generally speaking, you're often going to set this to UTF-8, just because this is sort of the standard encoding for characters today. And really, for a lot of browsers, it's the only character encoding supported. Well, if it's the only character encoding supported, why do I have to include it? Um, because that's not always the way things were. So maybe, and sometimes people do want to use different types of encoding. For most kinds of characters, UTF-8 should do you okay. If you're interested in character encoding, there's I'd started Wikipedia for character encoding in UTF-8. It is a big, exciting rabbit hole where you could just learn and learn and learn forever. Viewport. So viewport's really important. We've done a little bit of work with the um, media queries, right? And what we've done in yesterday, Thursday, Wednesday, time is meaningless in 2020, is we used a media query to say, hey, if a viewport is smaller than or bigger than this, here are special rules. A viewport's really how big the window is that somebody's looking at this. So here we're going to say, put a viewport definition, continuing with the meta tags. Do we think we could put it in the same meta tag? Yeah, let's try. So I'm not sure if I can put the same one in here, but let's try and put it in the same meta tag. And I bet it'll yell at me if I can't. So the viewport, huh. You know what? Let's put this in a different meta tag just to see. Meta viewport equal to you know what? I'm not sure I remember the syntax for this because I am rubbish. Yeah. All right. Using the yeah. Ooh. So I've grabbed this. And this is giving me an example specifically for mobile, which is pretty Leanne, you're out here saving me. That it's really name. Yeah. Name is equal to view. And y'all might think, well, this is especially evil for free code camp to do. Why didn't it give me the syntax? And I confess that I really like this because it makes you stretch a little bit and say, I haven't done this before. And try. And when it doesn't work, you go, I'm heading to MDN to look this up, aren't I? The name, the content. Yeah. Is going to be equal to. I'm cheating and copying from Leanne, which is always a nice thing to do. You can copy a little bit as you learn. But do you remember when we talked to Remember when we talked to Barbara and Zach about how your brain tries to recall things and stick them together, and that's really important. We're going for the content, the width be equal to the device width, and then our initial scale is going to be set to. All right, all right, all right. What on earth is going on here, right? Oh, and sometimes it wants this little slash. So there's a bunch of information right here. Is it okay to take just a second? Because I know this is it's challenging because this is both the most important lesson we're really going to look at, but it's also one of the more challenging ones. So let's take it's name equal viewport. Y'all, thank you. I'm sighing at me, not you. So let's talk about what's going on here really, really briefly, because I think that's important. So here I'm saying, hey, this is another meta tag. And a meta tag is saying, hey, this is metadata. And metadata stuff, I'm not going to display this, but it's important. And look at my absolute favorite feature of free code camp is that if you try to write it out, it's going to link you automatically to the MDN. And what absolute mercy that is. Here we've got the name. And what the name is saying is, hey, 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 here's what kind of thing I'm doing with this. Yeah. We feel like name viewport. It's not going to give me a mouse over for viewport. And here, this is the content. This is me saying the content that we have for our page, go ahead and set the width of it to the width of the device. So as much space as my user has on their viewport, go ahead and use all of the width. And I'm not setting the height explicitly, but the way I'm setting the height is here with this initial scale. And I say, okay, if I've got a user who's got a viewport 300 pixels wide, it's a reasonably small viewport, isn't it? If somebody's got a viewport 300 pixels wide, use all of that width. Yeah. But then when you decide how tall to make it, go ahead and use an initial scale of 1.0. So I'm saying, cool, make it as wide as the viewport, but don't stretch or don't squish the content. Go ahead and go with the scale it was designed for. Oh, Leanne is saying you've been reading a lot of MDN this week and you just start learning a lot. You're a joy. Let's see if that worked. Oh, meta, a content attribute of, oh, we don't need that 0.0. 1.0 should work. It's the same thing. Meta, a content attribute of width equals device width. Did I spell something weird? Okay, that was spelled right. Did I spell initial scale? Further proof that programming was a mistake. I spelled something wrong, didn't I? One of the most joyful things in programming is your ability to spell something a little bit wonky and ruin your entire morning, isn't it? But this is just programming. It can't hurt us. So we're chilling. Y'all are just like, Jess, come on, do it right. Yeah, it's on me. So we can also look at a meta tag for accessibility and search. So what I was saying, when you build really high quality accessible websites, it's also better for your other users. And part of that is when we're talking about assistive technologies, often these are computers or they're programs that are helping people read or helping people access things. Oh, we've got somebody brand new. We're gonna go ahead and Mervin, could I ask you to drop in the chat the links to where they can get started? So search engine optimization, the way search engines work is super cool, but effectively what they do is they have a whole bunch of little tiny programs, little tiny robots, bots that go around the web and visit a bunch of websites and come back to the search engine and tell them stories about what they saw. So if you make your website easier for people using computers to help read or to help access it, you're also making it much, much easier for these little search engine robots to learn about what you've done. So what we're going to do is we're going to do another meta tag. Let's do it down here. Yeah. Whoop. Meta. And we feel a little bit more confident about the syntax this time, don't we? Because Leanne just showed us, and Sadiq and Seth, all of y'all were just like, come on. Yeah, this is it. You know what? I was lie to you first thing on a Tuesday. I was like, I promise I will stop teaching classes first thing in the morning my time. But I think y'all are just going to get me sleepy and chill. Well, we're going to set the name attribute to description. Y'all yell if I misspell this, if you don't mind. And the content. Oh, gosh. Here, the only thing we've been told to do is to give it a useful content description. Here, this is going to feel a little bit like alt text, isn't it? What we're doing is we're setting what our website is. And I think it is a quiz for developers about their work. Does that feel okay? Do we feel pretty chill about that? So here we say, I got a meta tag for you. All right. What the meta tag is doing, so the name of what we're doing here is a description. We're setting a description for our page. And the content is a quiz for developers about their work. Let's check our code. And you can write whatever you want in here. Yeah, let's check. As long as this turns green, we're free. Oh, we can just keep bopping along. Everything's fine. Oh, this is a really, really good time to say the bootcamp is run by Class Central. It is durably and enduringly free. There is no way to pay us. Well, there's no way to pay me. And we won't ever accept any money. Free Code Camp, the lovely people who build this curriculum and build the website we're all learning on at the moment, they're a nonprofit. So, and the two requirements here is if you have the money, don't you go spending then you don't. And if you feel like it, donating to Free Code Camp is a really, really cool thing to do. I promise I donate on my other account. I don't donate on this one, just so I get those prompts so we can mention, oh, hey, but don't spend money you don't have. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add a title. Yeah. And sometimes the title is going to feel really similar to our description, because what we're doing in both cases is saying, what is this website? What is this page really about? Yeah. And remember that the title that we're going to set within our head element isn't going to show up on our page. If we want to do that, we can make an H1 in the body, in the main. But here, what it's going to do is it's going to display this at the top tab. Those of you who are watching this on a browser, all of you are watching this on a browser. Those of you who are watching this on a browser that's not on your phone or not on a tablet, you probably have a little tab symbol up at the top, up over my head, right? That I bet money that's going to say, let's learn accessibility by building a quiz. Yeah. And what that is, the way that text showed up is that's the title of this page right here. And that's what we're going to do right here is we're going to set the text that's going to show up in that tab. Super chill. We could put that the title is Let's Learn Accessibility by Building. The exclamation point's quite important, isn't it? So we can put our title wherever we want. I'm going to put it down here at the bottom. We do want to go ahead, and somebody pointed out a couple of lessons ago that when we set the character set for our meta character set, that's going to be within the first 128 bytes or so of the page. So let's always leave that up at the top. I think our title we can put anywhere we want. We open a tag and we close a tag, unless it's self-closing. And here, say developer Workflow, and workflow is just a fancy way to say the way you like to work. You know, the number of things that tech people we just invented new words for to be fussy. I'm going to check our code, and as long as that turns green, I'm gently confident. We've got an opening title tag, we've got a closing title tag. It says developer. Oh, you know what? This should be really descriptive. So a title should let people know what this is about, or an SEO bot know what this is about. So a developer workflow quiz is probably a safer title here, isn't it? Let's check our code. Everything's fine. As long as we get that green bar, everything is reliably chill. So navigation is important. And I want to talk to you about navigation because this is really exciting. When we talked about assistive technologies, the first one we tend to think of are screen readers. And I love, love, love how many people who are getting into development are like, hey, I've heard of accessibility, I've heard of assistive technology, and I know that screen readers exist. I love this. This makes my bitter old lady heart sing. But accessibility and assistive technologies aren't just screen readers. And one thing that's going to be really, really common amongst a whole bunch of different kinds of users with different kinds of needs is going to be navigation. So you may get many users who are using voice controls. You say, okay, um, whether from personal preference or from a mobility challenge, I can't, or I'd prefer not to, use a keyboard or a mouse input. Some people only use keyboard inputs, not mice. I imagine there's folks using mice and no keyboards. More and more people I'm seeing are using voice controls, and that's really exciting. And screen readers as well rely on navigation. Navigation is a core part of accessibility. And really, this concept of I'm putting out big evil claws. I'm so excited. This concept of semantic HTML that we've been talking about, that you structure your HTML in ways that carries meaning, is going to be really step one on giving somebody a good navigation experience. I'm really excited about this because all of the things we learned. Oh, hey, you want to have a head and a header, or a head and a body and a header and a main, a footer. A lot of times we'll learn about that. We haven't yet. And we've been saying, oh, you want to do this because it structures your website well. We just said that and really like, oh, it's the good way to do things. And here we're saying, hey, we want to do this because it sets us up to make our website easily navigable by people who have a whole range of different needs. I'm so excited about navigation, and that's probably very weird, isn't it? So we're going to add a header to our main element. Can y'all tell me what might go in? Oh, where's my weird? Look at me being low key rubbish. Yeah. Ooh. So we do have a static video. We've just dropped into the chat of Parham coming to talk to us about accessible design. Or if you want to come back next week, I bet we could talk to Parham live. Yeah, let's get him to come back for another guest session so we can. Parham's one of my very, very dear friends. You say, Jess, are your friends all smarter than you? And yes, yes, it's fantastic. So what we're doing is inside our body tag. This is where all our content is going to go. Oh, heck. Let's close that. We're going to go ahead and create a header section. What kinds of things might we put in our header? The main section of our body is going to have sort of our main content, the kinds of stuff our users have come to the page for. What do we think the header might have? Yeah. I'm going to check my code. I'm gently confident this is fine. Everything's fine. So within our header, we're going to put some stuff in it. And this website we're looking at right now is actually a really good example of what we might put inside a header. So if we look all the way up here, we see all the way up here, we see responsive web design, beta, learn accessibility by building, and above that as well, we see the free code camp link, and we see the menu and the link to my profile. Those kinds of things are in our header, and you're gonna see them in many, many websites. If you're watching on Twitch, hello, my loves. If you're watching on Twitch, I think there's sort of a search bar up top, and if you're watching on YouTube, it's the same thing, isn't it? It's gonna say YouTube and give you a little search bar. So that's the kind of stuff that's in the header of most websites, right? So here and then you've got the main action. Yeah, going on right under it. So here, we're gonna create an image, an H1, and a nav element. And a nav, I'm going to do the nav first just because I'm the most excited about a nav. Oh, so somebody's asking, these live streams tend to last about an hour, maybe hour and a half with questions. Everything's chill. We'll be right back tomorrow, I promise. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a nav. And a nav is another one of these invisible boxes that we make, these semantic divisions, these empty boxes that we put stuff in. And this is exciting because header is another one of these sections, another one of these empty boxes. And we're effectively putting a nav box inside a header box. So far, conceptually weird. I'm always going to be mean to y'all. What do we think a nav? Sorry, I'm cheating by hovering over there. What do we think a nav does? A div is a generic empty box. A header is an empty box for putting the stuff that lives at the top of my website. What do we think a nav might be? So I'm going to say, so nesting one, image H1 and nav, image screen. Oh, wait, the image is self-closing. I'm being a doof. And the image is pointing here. Am I done? Oh, it's very big. It says free. I imagine it says free code camp. Yeah, it says free code camp. Well big, doesn't it? Am I done? Am I done with that image? Do I feel done with that image? For real? So I'm told here I need an ID of logo. Y'all, you better be yelling at me. What else do I need here? What else do I need before this image is done? I'm going to move on, but and it's especially important for accessibility. What do I need to put in this image before this image is done? It's not a rhetorical question. Like, if you don't tell me, I'm not going to finish this and it's going to be the worst. In the meantime, I'm going to, yes, my absolute loves. I love how Fedris is actually yelling, like, alt, you got to put your alt text. So very high pitched first thing in the mornings, isn't it? You are all durably impossible. We don't want that full stop there. So alt text rules. Alt text is so important. Alt text is important for your people using assistive technology. Alt text is important for those little robots that your search engines use. We absolutely love alt text. Yeah, the alt is going to be equal to, and what this is we want to use text to concisely. Ooh, Cephas is skipping ahead a little bit. Love it, love it, love it. Saying, oh, what about the width? What are we going to do about this? We'll get there, I promise. But the alt text first, we want to have a concise but descriptive description. We want to be concise, but we want to describe what's going on here. Let's say the free code camp text logo. That feels chill. Oh, Fedris points out that we could do a title for. Yeah. Well, we might leave that one alone for right now. Everything's super chill. But you are durably, like, y'all are just right all the time, and it wears me out. I love it. But I really want to point out that being wrong is, being wrong in the real world can absolutely hurt you. But this is a smaller, softer, easier world, isn't it? Right now, we're just living on this little tiny computer monitor. All we got to do is do some word puzzles. Really? That's what programming is, isn't it? We're doing word puzzles that make websites. I always think that doing web design or doing web development, you could say whichever you like. I'm probably going to say develop. I'm a rubbish designer. This always feels like modern magic to me. I'm going to say some words. I'm going to type some words out, and it's going to make an experience out of light for other people to see. I absolutely love this. So you might note that we used an SVG here. So there's different types of images. Ooh, do you want to yell some of the different kinds of images at me in the chat? So an SVG. Oh, so Sasha's asking, why do the order of the image, the H1, and the nav matter? So that's just going to be where they show up on your page. If you want the text above the image, do it, do it, do it, do it. I mean, I think it's probably going to look the least weird if the logo's on top. But yeah, here the order that we've put them on in our HTML. Let's look at that. The order that mm, so we put our image first, then we put our H1, and we can't see our nav yet. That nav is still in an invisible box, an empty box. But really, the way we put them down is the way they're put down on the page. Yeah, super chill. We're goodbye index. Hello, CSS. So we've used a scalable vector graphic. Sadiq's out here pointing out, you know what? You could have used a JPEG. You could have used a PNG. Could have used a GIF. Some people say GIF as well. We got a bunch of options. Oh, animated GIF, animated GIFs. Are those still a thing? I'm very old. So what we're going to do here is we're going to set a selector for SVGs. Yeah. Oh, we're going to use the ID as the selector. That makes more sense. What do we set the ID to here? Our image has an ID of logo. Ooh. We haven't on this stream expressly talked about IDs yet. Can we talk about IDs for just a quick second? So we've talked about element selectors, and that's when I set a selector in CSS and it touches everything. So say, hey, every time you see an H1, do these rules. Cool, cool. Yeah. And then we talked about classes, which are like a club that you can put multiple elements in. And when I went to set a CSS rule for a class, all the members of that club, I use a full stop and then the name of the club. An ID is weird. An ID is special. When I set an ID, that should be unique on your page. So if I have an ID called logo, I'm only ever going to use it for that one image called logo. Think of an ID as a name tag. If you're going to have two elements named Bob on your website, having name tag or have on one page, having a name tag that says Bob is going to be super weird. It's not going to help you tell your Bobs apart. So an ID is unique to that one element. Leanne's got it absolutely perfect. Ephedrus has got, yeah. And the way we select those in CSS is we say, hey, here's a hash. Oh, what do the kids even call a hash these days? Don't make me say it's a hashtag. No. Hey, it's a hash. And then logo. And really, when I hang on, let's look at this. If I have a class called pink, I do a full stop. And that full stop is saying, hey, CSS. We're chill, we chat. Hey, CSS. Can you look for the class of pink and set these rules for everybody with the class of pink? And what I'm doing here by setting this pound, or Siddiqui says maybe the pound symbol. Yeah. What I'm doing here by using this pound and then saying logo is, hey, this isn't a club and this isn't a group of elements. I want you to go look for what element has the name tag of logo. There should just be one. Go look for this one special guy or gal. Really, in my head, most HTML elements are ladies, and I don't know exactly why. I always like to think of it as a fancy ball. So we're going to look for logo. We're going to set rules just for this one very unique ID. We're going to set the width. And was it, you fuss at me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, my love. Cephas was saying, hey, we're going to have to set the width. And this was absolutely perfect. And I think the way we might be able to say that is just copy the syntax. We think this might work. Maximum of 100 pixels. Ooh. We've been talking in the Discord about elements of Oh, this is going to be something we're going to talk about in accessibility because this looks weird, right? It looks like it just disappeared. Yeah. Oh, Christine, are you having some problems with your code? If you can drop a link to like either a screenshot of your code or if you want to dump it in a copy and paste it over, put that in either the forum or the Discord. We'll get you unstuck, my love. So here we're setting it to a max of 100 pixels. That's an absolute measurement. A pixel is a pixel. And then we've got VW. Let me go ahead and, oh gosh, can I get my brilliant colleague to drop a link to the MDN, or I'll race you, units of measurement. And I know that I'm just constantly fussing at you all about how much I think I've got it. I win. I got it first. Remember, there's a bunch of different units of measurement we can use. And here, what we've got is a VW, and we haven't seen that before, but we're not stressed. None of this is going to freak us out. A VW is a relative unit, so it's set to sort of a percentage of the view width, of the viewport width. And here we say 18. So if one viewport width unit is 1%, make it 18 view width. And you might notice that I cannot see this at all. I mean, if you squint real good, hold on. Still nothing. Because we've got a white logo on an off-white background. Does this feel very accessible? I don't have challenging limits with my eyes. But I'm a little bit of an old lady and I can't. Can you all see the logo above our HTML CSS quiz text? Um, because the visual limitations I have are limited to just being an old lady, and I cannot see a fool thing. So so it's due to the white logo. Right now, the way we've got this set up is not accessible to. I mean, it's not accessible to anybody. It's not accessible to me. I don't like this. Um, and sometimes this can cause us to, like, it's white on white. This feels like a crime. And exciting. We talked about, some of y'all are like, I can see it. And I'm like, well, with your young eyes. We talked about what it can cost you if you don't make your websites accessible. And in some countries, you can get sued. Ooh. I'm like, Jess, why are you excited? I was like, oh, because I love it. You can get sued for businesses or for organizations making websites that are inaccessible. If you're making something that people can't access, that becomes a disability rights issue and there could be legal repercussions. And I don't like people getting in trouble. That's a lie. But I do like there being some enforcement around accessibility on the web. So we said, you know what? We can't see this. This is not accessible. Let's go ahead and change our background then. So away 23. And oh, look at that. This is cool because this is just set the background color only for the logo. So within the logo ID, because we've got a transparent image, I can say, hey, let's go ahead and make the transparent background of this image black. Oh, what a relief. This really chills me out. And here we've got some brand guidelines as well to say, actually, we've got a style guide. And this is really exciting. Who doesn't love a style guide? A style guide is something you're going to do a lot as a developer, as a designer. You take the path that makes your heart sing most. And a style guide is going to tell you, hey, here's how we make. If you're working on a website together, here's how our website looks. Here's how our logos are supposed to work. We learned about typography yesterday. Here are the shared rules for this project around typography. Yeah. And, you know, even at the top of our style guide, we see the way we think the logo is supposed to work. Hey. So we're going to head back. Whew. And gonna have to redo background color real fast. Y'all are as patient as the day is long. We got our pound, our hash, and then to do a hex code. Ooh, that's bright green. I think that's very cool, but that doesn't match our style guide, does it? Hello, my loves. Everything is so chill this morning. So now we're going to set an aspect ratio and ration. We're going to set that to what's the desired aspect ratio? Ooh. Okay, it says it somewhere in the instructions, but I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to be mean. Lazy, lazy. And you know what? I'm going to encourage all of you to be lazy. Can you yell? What's the desired aspect ratio? Can you yell it at me? And we're also going to set a padding. I'm going to set that to 0.4 rem. And remember that padding is the amount of space you have inside your element. If we wanted more space outside the element, we could have used margin instead. I'm going to go ahead and grab it. The aspect ratio we're using is the one from the style guide. Yeah, Evie and Ling. Y'all are just out here every day saving me from myself. And cool, that hasn't done much, but I'm gently confident. Oh, but we need the slash. Ha 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 ha. Oh heck. No, I don't need that. Still not seeing much. I think it might have been already in the correct aspect ratio, yeah? But I have the faintest, warmest feeling that this is gonna be green. And if it's not, that's chill. Hey, one thing who here's also taking the JavaScript course that's later on today? If you are, my beloved colleague, Ramon teaches that. And one thing I really like is he's got the habit of going pat pat after you pass something or after something works. And I love that. I love that little tiny encapsulated celebration that, hey, because when we talked to Barbara and we would talk to Zach, we talked a little bit about neurochemistry. So that sounds right, but brain chemicals. Yeah. Because your brain, this is going to sound weird and gross, but like your brain's sort of just a big bag of meat, right? Ooh. And it's sort of just a it's not just, it's a very, very good bag of meat, but your brain is a meat blob full of exciting chemicals. And one of the things I love best about brains is that there's a reward system built in that we get really, really good brain chemicals. We get like the same kind of chemicals that make us happy. I mean, so there's 3 kinds of chemicals that make us happy, and we get one of them when we achieve something. And I love Ramon's pat pat because that really reinforces the, oh gosh, I've done it. I'm just going to take a breath and enjoy these good brain chemicals because I deserve them. So I might steal his pat pat, but for now, I'm just going to continue to be smug deep in my heart every time we get that green line. And of course, it's not ho ho ho, I've done this. It's ho ho ho. My beloved and enduringly patient learners have steered me to the right answer here. Like y'all are just out here like, hey, this is the answer. And I'm like, yeah, this is your accomplishment, but I'm enjoying stealing, borrowing, sharing these good brain chemicals. So I'm gonna make the header. Remember, we talked really briefly about IDs, and those should be unique and that we select those in CSS using the hash or the pound or the hashtag. Or if we're doing a class, that's the club that we've put things, and we put a full stop in there. But here we're going way back to basics, and we're going to use a selector for all of our headers. Yeah. And really, we should kind of only have one header, so that's fine. And we're going to have it, we're going to set the height. So width. Ooh. So let's do this one at a time. I'm going to start from the bottom. So display flexbox. And this is the part that we haven't gone over together yet. We're going to look at this on Friday. But flexbox is a really powerful mental model. And flexbox is a powerful mental model rendered in code. And this is, and it's going to feel a lot like how we already do CSS, but sort of extended. And flexbox is the idea. It says, hey, Yeah, Sadiq, you're way ahead of me. I adore this. Flexbox is saying, well, you know what? Oh, is it just display flex? Whoop. So Flexbox is the idea that, thank you. Um, it's coming back to the core idea of HTML. And HTML, I've said again and again, hey, y'all, this is just weird rectangles. Everything is an invisible or visible rectangle, right? Cool. And what Flexbox does is say, whew, okay, understanding as we do that all of these are rectangles, my job as Flexbox is to squish or to squish and stretch and move. Like here, Flexbox, I like to say it's all about wiggling your HTML rectangles. We're going to set the width is, let's set it to 100%. What's another way that we could set this? What's a different unit that would also give, listen to me, I'm in pop quiz mode. Is there a unit we saw a couple lessons ago that we could also use to get 100% of the width? We set the height to 50 pixels. And 50 pixels is one of these absolute units of measurement. It says, hey, 50 pixels is always going to be 50 pixels. That's super chill. I'm thinking we could have also, yeah, a V. We could also use, I think one view width will do it. Looks like it's about this. Yeah, we think would be 100. Ooh. So Leanne's pointed out that we could do this with M, but I think we would probably have to do a lot of weird math in our heads, right? Here, I think 100%. The cool thing is, I'm not going to ignore you. You're not wrong. I think we could extrapolate this, but it would be doing a lot of weird math behind the scenes. And we know that great developers are lazy. The laziest possible thing we can do here is, I want to set the width to 100. Yeah, 100% is always going to be 100%. We are safe and happy and chill and free. Oh, and you know what? Let's set our background color. And this is going to be for all of the header. We've already set it for this image that lives in our header. Background color. Ooh, what do we think this is going to be? So we're using a hex code again. No, overcomplicating stuff is fun. Like, you should see how I run my life. It's always a big mess. We got 1B, 1B, and 32. I mean, I am low-key sure that this is what it's asked for. This doesn't feel right. Like, does black text on black background feel very accessible? Like, we can highlight this and see what it says, but does that feel terribly accessible? Again, even with me just being an old lady, those look the exact same color to me. But we've got our little tiny dose of reward brain chemicals, seeing that green stripe, and we could bop on. Everything's fine. Here we go. Here it's saying, you know what? We need to change that color. And it's, I don't know if we, let's make this a little bit bigger, just temporarily. Ooh, heck. We're also seeing just a little bit of overlap as well. So not only is it black and I can't see it, but also it's kind of poking out from under the bottom of that background. We don't want that. So here I'm just setting the H1. If I wanted to be really specific, I could say, well, you know what? Set these rules, but only for the H1 in our header. Yeah? Oh, chill. Oh, is it header or heading? Header. I think heading might be the old one, the deprecating. You know what? I don't even know on a Monday. So change the H1 to the color is going to be. And some of you who are much more skilled than I, a lot of people can look at a hex code and go, "Oh yeah, that's going to be some kind of brown, or that's going to be some kind of pink." Me, I live in a perpetual state of being surprised. I am never sure what this color is going to turn out, but I'm very chill about it. Oh, is it heading? Is it header H1? Do we need to swap this around? very much. We needed to swap those around and everything. That's very bright, isn't it? Oof. Um, and one thing we're going to be talking about accessibility a lot when we talk about colors is going to be contrast. And then we're going to set the font size. You all would be shocked that size starts with an S. And then our minimum font size is going to be 5 view width, so sort of 5% of that, or 1.2 M. And we're just, that seems fair. So Sadiq points out we could have just said the H1, which is a really, really good point here. We're making it more complicated than we need to. Absolutely. I'm just looking into the future, and I think I might want to put in header down here in the main. Or I think I might want to put an H1 down here in the main. So specifying header, I'm just looking into my future and saying, well, I want to be a little bit specific right here. We're going to check our code. Ooh. I thought I was being real clever. And it says we get an error, and the error is straight up like, Jess, don't get that clever. Just do H1. You are durably, indurably, perfectly right. And we've got our green stripe, so in our hearts, everything is wonderful. And we're coming up right on an hour. I want to be really respectful of y'all's time. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of this nav work. Then let's do some question and answer, and we'll just chill out. I'm going to be, do you know what? I'd also be really, really excited just to chat to y'all as well, because I would love to hear about what you think about accessibility, what kinds of things you think about contrast, which is so exciting, and really, what kinds of things. Oh gosh, have a think about this as we're doing the last couple of things, because what I'd love to hear from you all are, what have you seen on websites in the past that made it hard for you to use? And this doesn't have to be accessibility. I've heard people talk about bandwidth. I've heard people talk about image size. I've heard people, we'll talk about auto playing music in a bit, because that used to be a thing back in the day. So here in our navigation, the nav section is generally where people can go to navigate the website. That's all chill. We're going to make an unordered list, and that's a UL to open it and a /UL to close it. Cool. Ooh, Leon's pointing out there's some flexbox styling we haven't done yet. Yeah. So going through and doing the flexbox lessons on your own are going to be really, really important to being happy doing these. We will review those on Saturday, but don't wait for me. Y'all already know I'm cheerfully rubbish. Going on ahead by yourselves is going to speed things right up. What I've got here is I've got the structure for, let's scroll down so we can be happy with this. Here I'm saying I am starting an unordered list. Cool. And here I'm saying I'm starting a list item. Yeah, cool. And here I'm saying I'm ending a list item. And because I am a lazy programmer, I know I need 3 bullet points. I'm going to copy and paste this twice. Oh gosh. You know what? The reason I say I'm rubbish so often is once you get chill about making mistakes, and once you get chill about looking silly, it makes you so powerful. When I was younger, and I'm going to copy and paste these over, because not only am I low-key cheerfully rubbish, I'm also very, very happily lazy. One thing, and gosh, especially when you're juniors, don't go into a job interview be like, well, I'm rubbish. I'll come and I will lovingly try and fight you. A fuss at you, isn't it? But one thing I found is really nice for me personally, and being an old lady, is that the chiller I've gotten with making mistakes, the happier my life has been, where I was like, cool, I mess stuff up sometimes. It's not going to hurt me, or it's not usually going to hurt me in a way that's isn't endurable. Here I've got a list item. Oh, do we need to add our anchor tag inside the linked item tag? Do you know what, Sadiq? You are absolutely, completely correct. Oh, and do you know what? Here, it said the list items text should be wrapped in anchor tags. So I think in the next couple of steps, we're going to make each of these a link. And that tracks, doesn't it? If we're saying this section, this nav section, is for our users to navigate around our page, makes sense that these would be links, isn't it? So let's go ahead and a ref. We know that's going to go someplace. Let's close that here. Heck. And these aren't going, we don't have our destinations for our links yet. I'm going to Command C and Command V and Command V because I am cheerfully lazy. Oh, do you know what? I'm actually doing an unrelated. I'm doing a live stream on Thursday in the afternoon UTC, so maybe 5-6 hours from now. And I'm actually going to be talking about laziness. I'll go ahead and I'll pop that on my own Twitter if you like. But I'm really excited to be talking up. Does it have to be inside the link tag? Do you know what? So here it says the list oh gosh. Sadiq, you are so right. Oh, look at this. The list items text. The text of the list items should be wrapped in anchor tags, not the list items themselves. It's feeling a little bit like school, isn't it? So I'm going to move my list items outside. Yeah. So all I'm doing is moving these opening tags for my list items. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these. I'm going to delete all of these. You are so heckin' patient. Oh, gosh, I didn't mean to send all y'all learners to my Twitter. It's just me grumbling all the time over there. Most of it's just, oh, gosh, I'm messing stuff up all the time, which is a very relaxing way to live. So, yeah, we think this is going to work. But if you like, I'm going to be talking about laziness. And I think it's going to be really, really laid back. Y'all don't have to go. It's not a boot camp kind of thing. But it is going to be me chuckling about, oh gosh, here's why it's so nice to be lazy as a developer for a little bit of time. So we feel okay. We've got a list item, starts. Then we've got a start of a link. And the link doesn't go anywhere yet. Everything's chill. And then we've got our text. I'm going to push yes. You want to push go, go, go. You think we're going to get that brain chemical? We think we're going to get to pat, pat. Oh, oh, oh. And because I copied and pasted a bunch and bounced around, let's talk about. So here we start a link item. Here we start our Here we start a list item. Here we start our link. Here's the anchor text for the link. Here's where our link stops. And here's where our list item stops. And this will make a little bit more sense when we add where the link is going, isn't it? Because right now we see we've got 3 links and they don't go anywhere. So, y'all are helping because this is absolutely a place to get stuck at. So if you haven't done the section on flexbox, this is a good time to go back and say, okay, the flexbox section, I think it's like 12, I think it's like 12 or 20. It's not so many points. So going and doing that before you move on is really going to make your life easier. So say, oh gosh, and you all just told me, is it nav first or UL first? When I don't know, I'm going to experiment. If it doesn't work like this, I'm just going to swap them around, isn't it? Wait, I've done this. I can look at my existing code. Ooh, I didn't wind up doing that, did I? But, okay, so I don't have any examples. I'll just try it like this. If it doesn't work, I'll swap them. Nothing can hurt me. Display is flex. We're using flexbox. And then, what do we think? How do we do it's nav to UL, you think? Let's get our errors. So the very first error we get is like No, Sadiq is absolutely right, and I never get tired of saying student name is absolutely right. Okay, so for the flexbox lessons, it's 21, which is a lot, but yeah. So this is we're targeting the unordered list inside the nav. Whew, let's check that. Hmm. Do we need the little pointy baby? Hmm. I've never seen this pointy baby before, so let's leave that alone. Or I don't remember. Do we need it? All right. I'm rubbish a lot. So with display flex, and then inside here, what we're gonna do is to justify con. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Um, everything's fine. Everything's going to be fine. Ooh, and this is giving me. So we think. Wait, am I still doing it wrong? Nav D. Well, it feels all right. That's what I thought. I thought this little like pointy baby didn't go there. I thought that was just pointing the intent. Oh gosh, if I got it the wrong way. Coffee. Coffee is absolutely going to happen. And then we've got justify content we think comes down here, right? See, this is why I'm all like, ha ha ha, I'm a little bit rubbish at CSS. And it's not ha ha ha, I'm wasting your time. I do apologize for that. But if you are cheerful as you're wrong, and if you are relaxed as you learn, nothing can really hurt you. And here, the way we want to justify our content is we want to space it evenly. And I really like this one because it just feels very natural. Ah! One of the weirdest ways to get your brain chemicals is by getting it right and thinking you still had a little bit of work to do. I was sure. Yep, we've targeted on ordered list. Y'all have reminded me that using the little pointy baby is the format we use for this. So it's within our nav, boom, the child, the unordered list. We're using flexbox. So we say, hey, flex it. Nice. And then we're going to justify our content by spacing it out evenly. Everything is chill. We're not going to do this next one. We're just going to look at this next one together and talk about it. Step 40. You've got so much of this to do. It's monstrous. So, because this is a quiz, we're going to need a form. And I'm not that sorry. We're going to leave you at the hard part. And you say, Jess, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. This is going to be where it gets hard because we're going to do forms. Actually, this is a good way to ask you. Did you all find forms hard the last time we did them? Because we learned some forms together, and then we did forms for our first project. Did you find that hard? I always find forms very, very difficult, both to teach and I confess to make myself. Um, oh gosh, yeah, this is gonna be the hardest because we're doing forms again, which is already so hard. And oh gosh, look at some of y'all are like, I don't think forms are hard. Oh, y'all are just volunteering to teach at the next boot camp. But I always find forms really hard. Tara, look at you. You're like, I found it interesting and not that hard. All right. I Y'all better come help me out in the forum and in the Discord answering questions because I always find forms really hard. Um, yeah, and Sasha points out like sometimes forms don't seem that difficult when we get step by step and start. But like sitting down and doing them and keeping them in your head, building those long attention octopus chains, like we learned from Barb, that can be really hard. Like really getting that syntax to stick, right? Some of you find it easier. I find it super hard. And if you find forms hard, like I am there with you. So I find this part of the accessibility lesson really challenging because we're doing forms again, but we're doing forms with some extra dimensions. Yeah. Oh, y'all are just way better at web development than I am. A lot of you are like, well, it's a bit fussy to align, but it's not that. Oh, Leanne, look at you. This is amazing. So you save empty section snippets to yeah, just and some people will use shortcuts on their keyboard, like program in shortcuts to say, oh, control something automatically spits out. And some text editors will let you like set shortcuts for the commonly used elements. So, oh, Mood, you make such a good point. You say, you know what? And you found forms a little bit hard. But doing it again and again, this practice is what makes it stick in your head. Oh, and I think that's really, really so even if it's kinda hard, and even if it sucks a little, just being really, really cool to yourself, really, really relaxing to yourself, um, and pushing through, giving yourself good breaks, getting a lot of good sleep, but going ahead and trying until it feels chiller is really the way we're gonna go. And I'm gonna be so excited to answer any questions you all might have. Um, and even more than questions, I'd love to of course, I wanna answer your questions, but alongside questions, I'd be really excited to talk to you all about what kinds of things have you seen on websites? I'm sorry to sound so excited. It was like, what made your day more difficult?" But, like, we've got s we've got learners from all around the world, and you all are so brilliant and so interesting. I'd love to hear about what have you seen on websites that made websites harder for you to use? Mm. And this could be things like, oh, sometimes I see websites and the background color and the text is just really hard to see. Yeah. But it could be things like, oh, you know what? Sometimes I see a website that asks for payment in a type of payment I don't use. I'm based in the UK. And one example I see a lot is a data requirement. Sometimes you see American, it's always American. You see American websites or news websites that say, "Oh, sorry, we can't show you our website because we're not GDPR compliant because we don't follow the general data protection regulations." Is that what? Oh, let's take a look. Let's take a look. Juan is saying, and this is so important. Juan is saying, you know what I've seen that's really, really hard is there's no tab index. And we're going to be learning more about that. Tab index is a really fundamental part of navigation. Remember how we talked about some learners aren't going to be, some learners, some users. I know I like to think everyone on the internet is a learner, but um, some people have not set up their website with enough semantic structure that you could tab through them. And that's how a lot of people navigate using just keyboards is tab to the next option. And that's rubbish, isn't it? Where you're like, oh, I want to navigate this website. Oh, and I can't go anywhere. Rrr. Sasha's got a really good point, and I love this. It says, well, sometimes when I go to an old website that hasn't specified the character encoding, or they've used different character encode, or they haven't got the font up to date, it's going to give me either difficult to read text or just a garbled mess of computer characters. A Fedris is, you know what? This used to be a much bigger thing when it pop-ups. So back in the dim, dark days of the 90s, this used to be such a thing. You would go to a website and there'd be like 40 pop-up banners. And these days, maybe you just get one or two, and they still suck. But they make it harder to access your website. Yeah. And Leanne's pointing out that sometimes when you're in Europe and you get I'm sorry that you cannot see this website. Like that's just folks saying, we're not gonna follow GDPR rules. We're not gonna follow those data rules. We're just not gonna bother. Mooch has got a really good one. I love this. And when I say I love this, I mean this is so useful. It's a good point. But I hate this, isn't it? Where you'll see a description in the search engines. You go to DuckDuckGo, and I'm searching for CSS cheat sheets justify content. Because it sounds like something I'd search for. And you'll see a website, you see the title, you see the description, and it looks just like what you need. And when you click on it, this website's about something completely different. Rubbish, rubbish, rubbish. I agree. Darn it, darn it. This content is not available in your country. Right. I'm not mad at you, obviously. Like, this is such a good. I'm mad with you. Like, isn't this enraging where you're like, oh, cool. This new album's come out, or somebody's made these new stickers, or here's a news article I'm really, and you're like, oh, I'm really excited to learn about this. And you click on it, it goes, nah. I don't think that where you're based. And obviously, I'm not telling you to, especially because some countries will block certain kinds of content. So sometimes it's a website, somebody developing a website who says, "Hey, block those people using GDPR." And that's not good. But sometimes it's your own country saying, "Hey, everybody in our country shouldn't be able to see these websites." Of course, I'm not suggesting that you break any local regulations. I'm absolutely suggesting but looking into a really safe VPN. And this can be difficult because VPN, of course, only do what you're comfortable with, only do what you're feel safe with. VPNs can be difficult by themselves. So VPN's a virtual private network. And this is a way first to anonymize, and it's not perfect. So a lot of people think I'm using a VPN. The websites I see are 100% secret. And that's not always true. Your browser still collects information about what you see. Mm, some browsers still collect and store information about what you see. And sometimes your internet service provider can still tattle on you. I really like, if I no, I can say I use a VPN. I use Proton VPN myself just because I've done as much research as I can, not being in security myself, and they seem really solid. So I use Proton VPN, and I really like those. But one really, really common service is called Tor, and they've got their own browser. It's a little bit slow, but the more people using Tor, the more anonymous it is. So that's a really, really nice way to get around both. Hey, we haven't made this content available in your website, or oh, we don't want you to see this website in your country. Obviously, if you're living someplace where accessing this information would be dangerous for you, of I hope it's not too forward to say, "Oh, I love you all very much," but I have an absolutely unreasonable amount of affection for those of you I get to learn with. I'm so thankful to you all. I absolutely adore getting to learn for you. I really want what's best for you. And as part of that, I want you to be able to access any information you want all the time. It's an ethical thing, right? The same way if you're building a website, it should be for everyone. Sort of the core of the web is. If that information's out there, it should be for everyone. But at the same time, please, please don't put yourselves at risk. So if you're saying, hey, my country has blocked Twitter or my country has blocked this news website, and you think there's harm to yourself that could come by trying to access that through a VPN, yeah, I want you to make the best judgment for you, but I want you to take good care of yourselves and be safe. Yeah. But I also want y'all using Tor and looking at whatever we want. So you're getting some very mixed messages, aren't you? Um, Sorry, this has been a little bit of a rant about sort of the core concepts behind the web. Hang on a second. Very rude. I'm just ignoring you while I get a book. Oh, I think I've recommended this before. And of course, in the same way that I'm not recommending circumnavigating government level blocks, I'm not recommending piracy. But this book came out back in the 90s, and Tim Berners-Lee, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, now he's a knight, the gentleman who first architected and designed the World Wide Web, wrote this book about the process of it. And it's been out, oh, you know what? I think this book has been out for like 20 years. Oh no, I'm so old. So if you look online, you should be able to get it for maybe $1. Or there's probably PDFs out there if you genuinely don't have $1. Oh gosh, here's another really good point about access. It says, do you know what? Sometimes I try and look at a website and it just doesn't work in my browser. And Sadiq, this sounds like I'm picking on you specifically, but it says specifically Internet Explorer. And some folks are stuck on Internet Explorer because that's what your university or your school uses or your work uses. I think that Internet Explorer is no longer a supported browser. So if you're still using Internet Explorer and you have the ability to change, it might be time to change. But this problem is more durable than just Internet Explorer. Um, because tech people love to give fancy names to normal stuff, sometimes you'll hear people talk about their daily driver browser. And that's the browser that an individual like will grab first and say, okay. And my daily driver is Firefox because I'm a privacy weirdo. I say streaming and telling y'all my business. Aside from streaming and telling y'all my business, I'm a little bit of a privacy weirdo, and I really like Firefox, and I get the same problem. So a lot of developers, and especially people using web apps, um, will test it in Chrome, and then I don't think forget. I think that people run out of time and neglect, because that suggests an ethical requirement. Neglect to test that in other browsers. And this is called cross-browser testing. And you all are fantastic developers. And of course, you all are going to test your websites in not just different browsers, but different versions of different browsers, right? Yeah? Ooh, yeah. Oh, and if y'all want to talk about browser selection and what you use and why, I'm super chuffed about that as well. Oh, Mooch is pointing out, you know what? Oh, ooh, R. Sorry, that's not a very articulate way to help expand on your point. But I'm just filled with Mooch is pointing out, you know what? Some websites are difficult to navigate because the styling of their links doesn't look like a link, right? Because we've gotten used to a link being underlined. And if somebody's using a lot of underlined text at the same color of their link, ooh, 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 nice and annoying. Fadila's suggesting, hey, if you liked Internet Explorer, Microsoft's got another browser. They're using Edge. And I keep hearing nice things about Edge. Yeah. Oh, Safa. It's like, you know what? This is so true. If any of you are looking to make your own startups and want an idea, I bet you have your own ideas. One of the most interesting problems that I like to think about is um, mobile access on phones. So when we think about all of the people who can access the internet today, and it's not enough, more and more people are joining every day, and more people should be enabled to have access. Like we need to do more to make sure people can get on the web. The majority of people who are using the web, and especially new internet users, are mobile only users. So they're users who don't have a computer at home, but do have a smartphone, or maybe a secondhand, maybe a third-hand smartphone. That's still chill. But a lot of websites suck on mobile, right? Like, so it's very abrupt. A lot of websites are not designed for a mobile experience. And really, the design problem I like to come back to is thinking about input on phones. That you could type an email, you could type a blog, but really, when we think of hard work on the web, it's really the form factor of typing on a phone slows us well down. Yeah. Miss Alec is asking, what about Brave? Brave is also a privacy-focused browser. It's not really my own daily driver, but test out different, and even as a user, even without being a developer, which you are, test out different browsers and see what works best for you. Yeah. Sadiq has got it. We're like, look, I'm using Chrome and Opera and Firefox. I hear good things about Vivaldi these days as well. Oh, Sadiq, you make such a good point. So even though Internet Explorer isn't being supported anymore, sort of large, isn't being supported by the W3C, isn't being supported by most web developers, sometimes you will get a client, and a client is the person paying you to make a thing, who says, hey, this website has to be compatible with Internet Explorer. And sometimes that's because they're like a university that still has it, but like you'll still see those requirements these days. Okay, well, I'm going to lovingly push back and forth on you at this. So if I just like, well, there's too many amateurs out there using website builders, and you know I love an amateur, right? And these website builders, I think they're really great for improving access. And Ephedrus points out that that a lot of the folks, a lot of us as well, don't really know enough about user experience, and we're not thinking, what will this feel like to a user? How will a user use? Will this be accessible to a user? I might be a little more fluffy and say, well, you know what? When I think about this, I think it's about this as an education problem to say, oh, cool. We're making these website builders. We're making these websites available. We're making it easy to build a website super fast with no code or low code. And I love it. But really to be having a gentle and supported ongoing conversation. And sometimes that's emailing the website owner to say, hey, I tried to use your website, but I can't, or but it's hard to. And this is something we should be doing as developers. So if you're a developer and you notice, oh, wow, this website doesn't have really good semantic structure. This would be terrible for somebody using a screen reader. This would be terrible for somebody using um, tab navigation. If we're saying, oh, what I want to avoid is saying, oh, well, people using screen readers should get in touch or people using tab navigation. No, 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 no. Yeah. If we're developers, you love how I just consistently give y'all too much homework. One thing I love is when you see a website that's inaccessible or when you see a website that's designed in a way that you think, oh, I can't use this, or other types of people aren't going to be able to use this. Us as developers saying, oh, hey, I love your you always want a little compliment first. Love your website, cute picture of your dog. Just as a heads up, I found this really inaccessible because XYZ. You might want to think about ABC. Yeah. If you've got the time and if you could do that in a gentle, loving way, it's just a real solid thing to do. It's like going out and being it's like gentle, loving teachers for and you know what? Actually, I've been being real gentle, but I'm going to be like, divs. So remember that divs are these conceptual boxes we could put in our HTML, right? And div is always the box we use when we don't have any other options. There's nothing wrong with a div, but divs get overused in a way that really makes it more difficult to break down the semantic meaning of a web page. A lot of times when people are using a div, they could use an article so that when a computer or a screen reader or a search engine bot is looking at the website, they say, there's an article on this page. Instead of going down and saying, there's some divs. I don't have any semantic information about what this is. And sections. Give me sections. Give me glorious sections. You know what? I was like, well, you know what? We should be gentle and we should steer people towards education when we can. But yeah, I mean, too many divs is just my headache for the rest of the world. And do you know what? I'm I have so much gentleness in my heart for people who are new to building websites. Yeah. I'm medium grumpy with the people who build website builders. And some folks are doing a fantastic job. So the good people over at WordPress put automatic, the people behind the people at WordPress, the people the people at WordPress or are putting so much thought and so much energy into, hey, when people use, and WordPress is a really popular website, but you should try it. I quite like it. It actually powers like more than 20% of the web now. So a lot of website builders are thinking about this really critically. Um, but really for the folks on the toolmaker side. So when we say a lot of these website builders are resulting in inaccessible or clunky websites or websites with poor UX, it's like, cool. I have 100,000 years full of worth of patience for the people brand new to building websites, trying to make up. And really, if there's a bit of grumpiness in my heart, it's for the people who are making tools. I say, as somebody who works at a company who builds tools. Fabulous, my joyous and wonderful and brilliant and patient learning colleagues. Oh, wow. Maybe, is it okay if I put this up on the screen? I love, do you know what I hear about so many people who maybe says, you know, I naturally picked up on building website because of Neopets. But you thought you weren't smart enough for, I mean, obviously you were smart enough for comp sci. Ha 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 ha. And now you're doing a double major. My lovely, this is amazing. Do you know what I have heard of so many people who got started with HTML from Neopets? And if you go back in time a little bit further, we saw a wave of folks who got started from you're gonna see how old I am. So um Younger folks, a lot of them will say, "Oh, I tried Neopets and it taught me some basics of HTML." Love it. You go a little bit back further in time, you'll people say, the first time I tried HTML was from MySpace. MySpace was like the precursor to Facebook, but it wasn't evil. It was just sort of chill. The aesthetics were very, very late 90s, very aggressive aesthetics. Lots of spinning skull gifs, lots of black backgrounds, lots of auto playing music. It was a dark time. Hmm. Although hmm, the aesthetics were a little bit rough, but having a non evil Facebook analog was actually quite nice. And then if you go far enough back in time, if you go back to my day, the entry point, the gateway I used into web development was called GeoCities. And this was a really early website builder back in the yeah, I'm not being specific here. Y'all don't need to know how old I am. Back in the 90s. And this was really, oh, hey, you can have your own website. And they gave you a little bit of space, and it was really exciting. But whenever somebody's like, oh, yeah, I first picked up HTML from Neopets, I always want to squeal because it's just absolutely so exciting to see these friendly communities that give you a little bit of a taste of HTML and encourage you to experiment. I love it. You know what I'm going to do though is I'm going to go ahead and let you go. We're going to be right back here tomorrow. And we're going to have another lesson. It's going to be super chill. This one's really, really difficult, isn't it? This accessibility one. If you can, go ahead and try and get through this before tomorrow's lesson. If you can't, that's super okay. We're going to have tons of time and space to catch up. Yeah, everything's still. Tomorrow, let's take a look at what we're going to be looking at tomorrow. And let's talk really briefly about our guest on Thursday as well. We're going to take a deep breath and come all the way down to the beta certificate. And this is where we're living. Going to come down again. So we've done a lot of these. We're going to be talking about projects tomorrow. Isn't this? Wait, no, that's the project we already did. Y'all, the fact that y'all listen to me is absolutely a gift. Look at this. We did almost none of this. I'm a monster. What we're going to do tomorrow is we'll talk a little bit more about accessibility if folks have questions or if folks are stuck. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get started on previewing the Build Attribute Page project. And remember when we looked at our last project, I hope I didn't give you any of the answers. Really what we did is broke down the user stories. Let's look at this. Let's just preview. And we broke down the user stories into what we think that means in code. So tomorrow we could talk some more about accessibility, yeah? And we'll also talk a little bit about this project. These projects, you're not going to be able to finish them super fast, are you? They take a while, right? And one thing I like about this projects are once you're done, we still have more curriculum to finish. So if you finish the accessibility project, the stuff we're working on today, and you say, oh, you know what? I want to put some of this into my, coming back up. I've already done come on, where are you? I've already done my build a survey form project, but with these accessibility skills, I want to go back and make it more accessible. You can do that. That's like a really solid thing to do. So even after you've finished a project, you might want to go and update it as you learn. You say, Jess, why do I want to do more work? I said, it's because it's the best way to continue to learn is to apply them as you learn them. So tomorrow we're going to learn about that project, and that's going to be incredibly laid back. It's going to take you probably more than a day to finish, but that's all right. If you finish it in a day, come back and brag. And then on Thursday, we're going to have a guest. I promise that the guests are not just my friends. I'm just very selfish, and I try and make friends with people who are very, very smart. We're going to be talking to Felina Hermans, who's a professor. She's a very, very fancy professor out in the Netherlands. And she's going to be talking to us, and she's going to be really teaching us about how to read code. And have you all, like sometimes when you view source on a web page, we're going to do that all the time as web developers. We love that. The code can be really, really hard. And I think for those of you, because this is going to be a mix between the Web Dev Bootcamp and the JavaScript Bootcamp joining us. So I think in JavaScript as well, we say, oh, I'm going to go look at this code. It can be really, really challenging to see why should I read code? And even more importantly, what's going on with this code? This is really hard. So, Felita is going to talk to us about cultivating the skill of reading code, which I think is going to be super chill. In the meantime, let's go over your homework very, very quickly. Your homework is, if you can, not a problem if you need to finish later, but if you can, try and finish up this learn accessibility by building a quiz. I mean, we did a little bit more than 5 of these together, but not many. We didn't get very far in. I'm going to be on the forum. I'm going to be in the chat right there, happy to help. And you don't have to start, but if you just want to take a look at this build a tribute page, just take a peek at it and just it's not code, but read it. Just read through it and start having a little bit of a reflection on, hey, what am I going to be starting? Yeah. As always, you know that your most important homework, because like these lessons can wait. The videos are going to stick around. I'm still going to be in Discord. I'm going to still be in the chat after 6 weeks. Everything's okay. And don't forget that you can catch up later. It's all fine. The most important homework, and this is always going to be your most important homework, is to be as gentle and forgiving to yourself as possible. You're not going to learn better if you beat yourself up, and you're not going to learn better if you burn yourself out. It's 2022. The world is so stressful and so hard, and stuff's been hard for a while, right? This is just programming. It can't hurt you. And really, I might suggest it's not even that important in the grand scheme of how big and scary and exciting and beautiful the world is. If you need to take a break, or if you need to rest, or if you need to put this in perspective, the most important homework you have is to be as gentle to yourself as possible. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Have the most delightful day, or evening, or morning, and I'll chat to y'all tomorrow. Bye.